What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about something different. So a couple years back there was a gentleman who bought a Ferrari F430 from a dealer, and that kind of went sideways, and it made some news at the time. He was awarded a jury award of $5.8 million. Now there's some YouTubers who did report on this. I'm basically posting an update to, there was a story on thedrive.com. Broke that story. I'll post a link to that in this description below. And so basically that case made headlines in 2019, and it was appealed, and the final judgment was reduced from 5.8 million down to 500,000, and that was finalized. There's no way to appeal that. So that was paid out to the gentleman who bought the F430. So basically, to recap, what happened there was, and I have notes here. I don't have this thing memorized. So basically, a gentleman named Hamid Adeli sued Silver Star Automotive Inc., which is a Mercedes-Benz dealership in Arkansas. This guy was an out-of-state buyer. He bought the car sight unseen. He paid about $90,000 for it or something like that. Put $2,000 down and financed the rest. Just a few highlights from that was that originally the award of $5.8 million was considered excessive, and so they have this thing called due process, where in appeals they were able to get it down. So basically the car was a 2007 F430, and they took it to get it PPI'd at a local Ferrari dealership, and there's some paper trail that's not too great with the owner of the dealership. And the issue came down to having cracked exhaust headers and having that to be recommended to be repaired versus it was a problem that was going to be started. That all was in dispute. Obviously, you guys know that cracked headers are an issue on the F430s, but still, the buyer was told that the car was turnkey, ready to go. So in any event, on the way home from buying the car, they went through with the sale. It was an as-is sale, like all used cars are as-is sale, no warranty. Disclaimer, buyer's responsible for all repairs, etc. But on their way home from picking up the car, the buyer and his 8-year-old daughter smelled fuel. The next time they parked the car, the smell was quite strong. Then they had the car towed to a mechanic shop, and that's where they saw the cracked exhaust headers, and they basically had about $30,000 repair bill, and that's when the buyer asked for the dealership to take the car back, and the dealership said no, all sales final, as is and final. And so basically this all went back and forth, and claims of fraud are in this case. You guys can see it on the link below. You can read it for yourself. Since I'm not a lawyer, I really can't comment. I'm just presenting this to you, what I found on the internet. Just interesting how a Ferrari buyer, you guys know any other Ferrari used buyers? Basically got $20,000 in compensatory and incidental damages plus $5.8 million in punitive damages. And the reason for punitive damages, it's supposed to be a deterrent for future actions by this dealership and by other car dealerships, meaning that it needs to be not so small that it's a business decision where if they get caught, they're just going to pay like 20 grand or something for fraud. It has to be within the realm of reasonable to a deterrent, right? So I guess when the appeals were done, 500,000 ended up being a reasonable amount. And that was paid. That was a real award that was paid to the buyer. I don't know the split between the lawyer and the buyer, but that's it's not any amount just to dismiss. It's a pretty big amount. So interesting enough. So one of the cases that they referenced in that case was Cooper Industries versus Leatherman. Yes, the tool maker, the pocket knife tool maker. So basically, this happened in 2001, and Cooper Industries was a competitor to Leatherman. They pretty much used Leatherman's product on their ads, stating that Leatherman's product, that Swiss Army knife type tool, was inferior. So it's like Toyota taking a Honda car and putting that on their Toyota advertisement, saying, our car is better than the Honda Accord or something like that. Obviously, you can't do that. And they did that, and they were awarded $50,000 in compensation plus $4.5 million in punitive damages. Now, obviously, that's not an automotive lawsuit, but it has to do with consumer goods. And so I think that's why it was referenced in the Ferrari buyer case. Now, interestingly enough, and I'll send you guys a link to this as well. Interesting enough, this case was referenced to an automotive case. So this is where it gets interesting, for me at least. BMW of North America versus Gore. BMW of North America Inc. versus Gore. Not just one dealership. So what happened here, folks, was that Mr. Gore bought a car, brand new car, from an Alabama BMW dealership, an actual franchise dealership. Now, it had been repainted because it had been damaged in transport. And that was not disclosed to Mr. Gore. Upon purchase, he figured that out later, and it's basically a $41,000 car with $4,000 in reduced value. So he's getting $4,000 in damages plus $4 million in punitive damages. Now, that was eventually brought down to $2 million, but still, that's a big award, right? So BMW argued that there was a rule that allowed them to do that sort of repair under a certain percentage, like 3% of the value, and that basically the problem, I know I say basically left. Okay, so the problem with the amount of the award, according to BMW, was that the harm inflicted on Mr. Gore was purely economic, and the pre-sale repainting had no effect on the car's performance, features, appearance, safety, and BMW said no, they had no intent for disregard for anybody's health or safety. So obviously this is a big award to encourage all the car makers to disclose everything up front. Unlike the F430's case where that gentleman claimed theoretically his life was in danger because the cracked exhaust headers and the smell of gas and it potentially could ignite in the car, and him and his daughter in the car. And so did it happen? No, it was a matter of potential what ifs, and the jury didn't seem to think it was likely that it could happen, but still that was a factor, obviously a factor in the ruling and the judgment and the punitive award. So, I didn't even hear about this story 2 years ago. I just, if you guys can wonder, I was doing some research, and this story came up on the drive, and I started drilling down, and then these other two cases came up, and I just thought I'd share with you guys. Apparently there's a lot of people who think that if you get screwed by the dealer, you just deserve it. You should take it like a man. But there's also another camp of people who think, well, you should sue for what's rightfully yours. Claim what's yours. And if there's fraud being committed, it should be punished. So, which camp are you in? Please comment below. Love to hear from you. Again, these are actual cases. I'm going to give you links in the description. You can read up on them. If I misspoke or misquoted, please correct me in the comments. I do appreciate you guys and girls. So, I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.